Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live session. Today, we are going to have a mindful talk with the psychotherapist Hamsaz Wadhwani. Yes, positive mind is very important to lead a positive life. And that is what we're going to do today. We're going to ask everything that you want to ask a psychotherapist. And she's going to help you how to have a positive mind. So let's have some mindful talk with her. The seventh fold has joined in. Deep Money Hi. Hello, Rahul. Thank you everyone for sending in your questions. I'm going to try and cover as many questions I can. But even if we can't cover all that you've been wanting to ask, you can always DM me the questions or you can DM her on her personal page. And Hamsaz is yours. So let's send her a request and get started. Hi Neha. Hello Mukund 12487. Hi Hamsaz.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
So I
Happy to
was
be here.
just thank you for joining us live because we have so many questions and we want to have a really nice morning mindful talk with you.
Great. I'm happy, looking forward to it.
So tell me, how did you start your journey as a psychotherapist?
Yeah, so that's like a long story. I'm not going to kind of narrate and bore you, but I actually started being in the function of HR. So a lot of my experience, actually almost 15 years, has been in the field of HR. And after that, I felt like I wanted to do a bit more, something more meaningful, and that's how I went into moved into this whole field of psychology. I went to the UK. I studied there. I worked there for a mental health center, and then I came back and started my own firm, which is into HR and mental health and well-being both. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I'm very excited to be in this space at this point in time. I think it's much required.
You know, earlier going to a psychotherapist was like a taboo. It was like the moment you said, I need to go to a psychotherapist, the first thing people said is the person mad, like why? It was just a
You're
taboo. But
psycho.
luckily, yeah, that's like, psycho. It was like you are a psycho, be away from this person. So people shied away from going to a psychotherapist. But obviously, times have changed. But still, do you think the myth still exists? What's it like today?
Yeah, no, it still exists. There is a small bit of change. We're moving in the right direction. But honestly, yes, there is still a lot of taboo. People still feel it is for the weak. So basically, if you are going to a therapist, it means that you are weak, that you're not able to handle your own issues, that and that kind of stigma is still there. And I always say this, that it is very sort of shocking when we sometimes come to know about patients who come to us after the second or third attempt of suicide, which means that in the initial first or two attempts, they didn't think that it was important for them to go to a therapist and sort of kind of treat themselves of what they were going through. So yes, there's still a stigma, but I think we're going in the right direction, and I'm really hopeful that soon we'll be able to kind of, look at it at par with physical health, and to just like we go to a doctor, we'll go to a psychotherapist or psychiatrist.
Like you said, people come to you after like the second or the third attempt, and after shying away a lot. Like, luckily, the damage is not done to that extent. But how important it is to heal a mind as much as it is to heal your body? Like, people pay attention to gymming and the physical aspects of the body. How important it is for the mind?
Uh, I think it is, in fact, probably if I can say it is even more important, because as you know, a lot of our physical ailments, they come from stress. So a lot of them are created. In fact, 80% of diseases, illnesses are caused kind of by stress. And if you have a stronger mental health, then you are able to better deal with stressful situations. You're better able to deal with tough times. And that kind of helps you in your physical health as well. So today, if you see so many diseases, they are all psychosomatic. They're linked with your ability to cope with different situations. Of course, the genetic and all of that makes a difference. I'm not taking that away, but how you really cope with stress becomes so important. And that's why mental health is very important, because you kind of have a stronger and more resilient mental immune system, which helps you in your tough times.
So, in this lockdown, a lot of people are struggling with intense emotions like anxiety, anger, and a lot more negative emotions. Any tips for them to handle right now their day-to-day routine and mental mind?
Yeah. So I think yes, managing your emotions right now is very important, because we're all going through different kinds of emotions that probably we never went through before. And one thing is important, for each one of us to understand, is that emotions are for a purpose. So they're good for us. A lot of our emotions, even a little bit of anxiety, is very good, right? Because it kind of helps us in being careful about the threat, or about, so that we don't kind of risk ourselves. So that is all important. But when the emotion becomes too intense, or it becomes too much, that is when it sort of comes into the way of, our dealing with the existing situation in a more rational way. And that is why we have to deal with those emotions well. So I always give this as it's like a simple tip that I would like to, talk about. So what happens is that sometimes we're very close to our problem or the issue that we are facing, and that kind of brings about all these extra emotions that we have, which we want to kind of, manage, and we need a little bit of distance from the problem. So there's a
Okay.
concept called psychological distancing. Okay, so while we do
Okay.
social distancing, it's nice to do a little bit of psychological distancing from your problem. So, when you, like, for example, if you're looking at a volcano from afar, you would say, "Oh, how beautiful is that?" But if you're at the kind of foot of the volcano, you're going to be extremely distressed by it, right? So that is how it is. And how do we bring about a little bit of a distance with our problem? One way is to talk to ourselves in a third person. So
Okay.
if I was to talk to myself, instead of saying, "Oh, why am I feeling like this?" or "What should I do about this?" I should say, "Oh, why is Hamsaz feeling like this?" or "What should Hamsaz do about this?" Because language is very powerful. When I say this, I suddenly am distancing myself from the problem, and I can see it a lot more objectively. So that is a kind of quick tip that people can use. Instantly you will see, in the moment you'll feel that your emotions have kind of a little bit been managed better. So yeah, that's one tip that I can give you.
Wow, psychological distancing is something new that we've learned because social distancing we've been hearing and following, especially in times of Corona. So I think this is something that goes hand in hand. But while we were talking about social distancing and like you mentioned the psychological distancing, a lot of people are on social media right now. They're spending their entire time on social media, and while social media can uplift you, it can also weigh you down because of a
Yeah.
lot of comparison and competition, and not only for a layman but also high profile people because they are totally being compared on social media. So, how can one handle that, and what would you advise people who are forever comparing their lives on the basis of social media?
Yeah. So that is a real problem that we have, Shweta, right now, because see, the way our brain is made is it kind of looks at everything relatively. There's no absolute thing. So if it wants to know about something, it'll compare it with the other surrounding, the context, even the way we just see things. It is a lot is dependent on the context, and then our brain kind of says, "Okay, this looks like it is like this." Okay, so I don't want to get into the whole cognitive psychology part of it, but a lot of it is context based and relative. And
Okay.
similarly, so what we tend to do is, for everything we compare, because we don't know absolute stuff. We don't know, and that's why in schooling we have ranks, because just a percentage is not good enough. We need to see, "Oh, am I above this person? Am I ranked one, second. There's a study that says that those people who are silver medalists, like in Olympics, they did this study. The silver medalists are not as happy as the bronze medalists. It's
Oh,
so strange. I mean, they should ideally be more happy, but they're not because they are comparing themselves with the gold medalists and saying, oh, if I was just a few seconds better, I would have made it to the gold. Whereas those guys who are bronze medalists, they are comparing themselves with the people saying, oh, if I had not made it by the 2-3 seconds, I wouldn't be here. So they are a lot more happier. So the thing is that we're constantly comparing. That's how our brain is wired. And so we have to put in extra effort to kind of stop it from these comparisons. And social media, to a great extent, is aggravating this whole comparison thing that we're doing. There are so many studies that have shown that the more you are on social media, the lower your self-esteem, the higher
okay.
your depression. So a lot of issues are related with the fact that when we are on social media and we don't even realize the fact that when we are on social media we're comparing so many people. I mean, especially if you see in Insta and a lot of stuff, these are all digitally corrected faces and bodies, and a lot of people look at them and feel lesser about themselves, and that kind of all impacts at the end of the day your mental health, your well-being, your happiness, because you are comparing and you're looking at the best life of somebody else and thinking, oh, I'm no good, right? And we attach, and this happens to a lot of people where they attach their sort of sense of worth to the number of likes they get or the number of comments or positive comments. The minute you start doing that, you're constantly putting yourself out there to get hurt, to get sad, depressed with those kind of things that come about.
So, like you said, everyone knows that it is like it is being photoshopped and whatever, and but our mind is conditioned to still compare and also
Yeah.
take in the stuff that people are putting in on your comments and whatever. And it is something that you said psychological distancing is important. So ideally, if one in today's time, the importance of social media. But if one has to be there on social media at the same time, follow what you're saying, are there any tips that one can do to keep themselves calm and composed before logging in and logging out?
Yeah. So I think most, like you said, everybody knows about it, but it's hard to follow because what happens is that, and we know this as well, that when we are on social media and when we get like certain likes, etc., they give us a dopamine. I mean, this chemical is released, dopamine, which is kind of a reward chemical. So it kind of tells our brain to keep doing it because, and that's why we get addicted to it. So even though we know sometimes we're on the phone, we know, okay, this is like, I've been on it for very long, I need to put it away. It's hard to put it. It's as good as any other addiction. And so what we need is very, very like a stronger sort of disciplined approach towards it, where we say there are so many apps which tell you how much time have you been on your
Yeah.
phone. You have to use those apps and be very clear that, okay, I will be on the phone only for 2 hours in a day or only for 1 hour in a day. And once you get that, there is the strong sort of message beeping to say that, okay, stop it, now don't be on the phone, etc. That helps. The other very important thing is, it's a little bit of a attitude change that we need to do, is to not link our sort of sense of worth with social media, because the more we do that, the more kind of we keep going at it, we keep checking, we keep posting stuff because also we want to feel good. So the minute you kind of link your sense of self-worth with your with the social media, then that again kind of brings you in that addiction sort of a mode. Most importantly, cut off from your phone just before sleeping. So have various rituals which help you. So, okay,
Okay.
after you've seen your last show on TV, you will put your phone off and just do that as a ritual. Once you start doing it, your brain is all about the habit. It will start doing it then every now and then that, okay, you've just switched it off and you're not on it before you sleep, because that again impacts your mental health.
Okay, so while you were telling us this, we had a lot of thumbs ups coming up and we had a lot of hearts flowing all this while. And, a lot of people are wishing you good morning and telling you thumbs up and saying this is a really good discussion. Thank you for doing this, quite helpful. Dr. Razi Ahmad is giving a thumbs up. Malika Kalani is asking, um, okay, even Sharmista Raja is saying this is an amazing point, and Malika is asking, in your opinion, what is helpful? Is journaling about your day helpful?
Yeah, so that is actually a very good point. Journaling really helps, and it kind of, in fact, you should get into the habit of as much as possible to do journaling and try and incorporate whoever is doing the journaling a little bit about gratitude. So put in every now and then talk about how grateful are you about different people in your life, or how grateful about you about different things in your life, etc. And that again improves your well-being tremendously. The other thing that I always tell is that when you are very distressed, write your diary or your journal in a third person. When you do that,
Okay.
it makes, again, because that psychological distancing that we talked about happens immediately, and you are able to see the problem more objectively, more rationally. So it helps in managing your emotions very well. So that's a good point, Malika.
So, Hamsas, like you were talking about gratitude, how important it is to give gratitude when you're journaling. Like we all know we need to have the grace and be grateful. But how does it help our mind to have gratitude while we're journaling?
Yeah, so a lot of research is done actually in this area of gratitude, and it sort of falls in the top three things that improve our well-being. And they have actually taken studies where people are put in one group that shows gratitude regularly, through journaling or through, in fact, just a simple study was done where they called participants and they told them to write a gratitude letter for whoever they wanted to write. Just, and then they measured their level of happiness before and after they kind of wrote that letter, and they actually saw an improvement in just the overall well-being, positivity that they felt, etc. So there is a lot of, like I said, research done, and when you are grateful for the things around you, and it could be smallest thing, like, okay, today, I my finally I got house help for the work I wanted to do. So as simple as that, those kind of things make a big difference in how we perceive our life and how happy we are in it.
So you mentioned three things while the research, and one is gratitude that we are aware of. What are the other two things that are important for the well-being?
Yeah, so the other thing is, I mean, of course, there are many things, but the other one is kindness. So, when again, a lot of research shows that little acts of kindness that we do, so somehow we're not only wanting to be grateful to others, but we also like when others are grateful to us. Okay, and that kind of brings us in a better mood, that kind of gives meaning to our life sometimes. So when we show small acts of kindness, again, that has a big impact on our well-being, the little things that we do for others. The other most important thing is your connections, your offline connections. Let me be very clear. And I would say this to a lot of people as well who are a lot on social media, that, okay, fine, if you can't get rid of that, at least make sure that you have offline connections as well. It shouldn't be that you have only those online social media connections going on for you, because that kind of connection that we have with human beings helps a lot. Again, studies have shown that, even if you are talking to somebody that you absolutely don't know on your bus ride or train journey, etc., even that has an impact and improves your mood, improves how you are feeling in the moment. So that powerful it is to have a connection. At the end of the day,
Connection.
we're all like social animals. I mean, we know that.
So, while we were chatting, there is Sharmishta Raja asking, can you recommend some good reads on science of mental well-being?
Yeah. So there are a lot of books actually that I read and I would recommend. One is the How to Happiness. This is by Sonia Lyubomirsky, if I'm pronouncing it right. The other one is Authentic Happiness, and the other one is Stumbling on Happiness. That is by Daniel Gilbert. So these are the three books, and you find a lot of kind of similar theme coming out of it. but they're very powerful because they're all research based. So they're all science based. They're not talking about philosophy. They're not talking about just general stuff. It's very scientific. And so if you're someone who likes evidence, who likes to know why you should be doing something, then those are the absolutely right books for you.
So, if you don't mind, after our live session, if you could put these books on your story and tag us so we could share it with our viewers because a couple of them even missed noting it and I'm sure they would love to read it. So,
Sure.
if that's okay with you. Also, thank you for this lovely reads. I hope Sharmishta you got an answer. And Tarot by Mehek is asking, how do you decide someone needs therapy? Like a lot of our clients sometimes are going through a lot and and she feels the suggestion is a therapy for them. But how does one realize that one needs therapy?
That's a very good question, actually. So one is that, let me tell you a little bit about there are three Ds to therapy. One is you go when there is a disorder. So you obviously have a mental disorder, which is diagnosed mental disorder. So like say a depression, anxiety, OCD, personality disorders, all these, schizophrenia. You then must go to a therapist. The other is distress. When you may not have any of these disorders, but your current situation is such that you are a lot distressed, and so you should go. And the third is just pure development. Like I always talk about things, there are things like procrastination, which all of us do. I mean, I don't think there'll be anybody who will say that, no, I just never procrastinate. And that helps, when you're going through therapy. There are various ways in which we actually talk to people and kind of motivate them, get them to think about why they're procrastinating, and actually it helps. So a lot of developmental things can also happen. So even if you're not distressed, you're not in disorder, you can still go to a therapist. But I'll tell you, when you absolutely must go to a therapist, when you have any emotions or any issues or any problem that takes over your life, which means that your overall productivity is getting impacted, where you feel like you were doing things before that now you're not able to do because this situation is overwhelming you, then you absolutely must go. If you see changes in your diet patterns, like your eating habits, you see changes in your sleeping patterns, you find yourself more and more becoming to yourself and lesser with people. These are all signs that you definitely have to go to a therapist because something is not working out with you right now.
What are the benefits of visiting a psychotherapist or having a psychotherapist? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
think we
what
lost
are the benefits?
yeah.
You can hear me now,
So
right?
that's it. I could hear your question. So,
Okay.
so there are. So what happens is, when you go to a psychotherapist, a lot of our, and people don't know this, that a lot of our emotions are kind of a result of our thinking, the way we think. Usually people feel that emotions come first, then the thought is coming. But
Yeah.
actually, it's the other way around. You
Okay.
actually have certain thoughts about a situation, and that's why you are emoting that way, right? For example, in the same situation, Shweta, you will behave very differently and I'll behave very differently. Why is that? Because your thought process about that situation is different and mine is different. So what happens is, when you're going through psychotherapy, we kind of try to understand these thought processes. Sometimes our thoughts have these bugs, like how your system will have a bug. Similarly, our thought system has a bug, and you have to spot it and sort of upgrade your system. And that is exactly what happens in psychotherapy. So we get to the root of the thought. Like, what thought is really making you angry all the time? What is this thought that is really making you depressed? And when you kind of understand that thought, then you kind of try to change it. Like I said, you reprogram it. And that really helps. And that's the core of most psychotherapy. I would say not all, but especially CBT, which is one of the very prominent therapies across the world that uses this technique. And it really helps.
Okay, that's amazing because a lot of people just tend to, like I said, it's a taboo and people had myths. So this was a question that repeatedly came to us that what are the benefits? So thanks for answering that. And as we spoken, you deal with individuals, you deal with high profile patients, and you also deal with corporates. So, what age bracket is something that, like when they can approach you? Like, what age bracket do you majorly cater to?
So as of now, honestly, I haven't restricted myself to any particular age bracket. So it could be anyone from a child to adolescent to a young adult to adults. But I would say that largely when you're dealing with children, it requires a little more specialization because it's not easy. You can't use the same methods that you're using with older adults. So I would say that if you have a problem with your children, then maybe someone who's more of a child specialist is better than someone like me who's kind of catering to all. But apart from that, whether it be adolescent or young adults or older adults, that is something that I deal with.
So, when an individual is coming to you, they are already open to healing and they've come with the whole idea of receiving from you. But when you're dealing with corporates, it is a situation where, they feel, can they be truthful to you? Because at the end of the day, you've been hired by the corporate. So, how do you manage that?
Yeah, and that's where I think it's very important that you have that trust quotient going with your clients. I mean, the people who approach you from the corporate. And somehow I think people kind of once, I mean, at least that's been my experience, that once they kind of do the first session with you, they kind of more or less know that they can trust you. But it's the question is that coming for the first session because you do have all these preconceived notions. You're worried whether the information will go to your managers and HR and stuff like that. But honestly, I want to tell you here that it doesn't happen that way. I mean, any therapist, and I'm not talking about only me, confidentiality is very important for us because otherwise nobody will be able to trust us, nobody will be able to sort of be honest with us, and so it's very important. And so no matter how much a corporate would kind of even insist for the data, it would not be given to them. And I also believe that genuinely HR teams who actually put this in place, they are not looking to know who's going through what. They basically just want to help the employees deal with it better. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is trust, but I feel that once you start it, you know that, okay, this is something you can trust and go ahead with.
So, you have been a part of HR before you started your journey as a psychotherapist. How important it is for HRs to get therapy done for their employees, and what is the importance of corporate psychotherapy?
Yeah. So I think it is very important because, like I said, it doesn't only help when you have disorders. It also helps when you're just struggling a little bit with the current situation. You're not able to find an answer. You're not able to get over it. And all of this kind of has a direct impact on your productivity as well. So one, even if corporates are very selfishly looking at it from their perspective, it makes a big difference because you will have better productivity coming out of a person who has a better mental health. And so that kind of, really helps in, I mean, it makes a difference to kind of have these sessions. So a lot of HR, and that is something that I really liked in this current pandemic, what happened, like there are people who are doing proactive sessions with mental health coach like myself. So they want their sort of senior leaders, etc., to directly approach us, even if there is no issue, just to do a proactive session. Because again, like you said, because there is still a little bit of stigma, etc., people still don't want to go.
Yeah.
So it is like a forced session on you, like you have to do it, and then hopefully you'll kind of be able to talk about what you're going through.
So, Vivek Kapoor is here and he's asking, how do you lighten the mood during an intense session?
Yeah. So actually, when we do psychotherapies, the humor part is very important because your sessions don't have to be boring and they don't have to be like serious sessions. Of course, while you laugh, you don't have to. I mean, like any other situation, you don't have to laugh at the person, but with the person, right? So you have to be very sensitive about this. So even when you're cracking jokes, you have to be very mindful about the situation that the person is going through, and it shouldn't make him uncomfortable at all. But if you're able to find that right balance, it really helps therapy a lot, actually.
So, I'm sure you meet a lot of people and you hear a lot of stories. What are the challenges you face as a therapist, especially in India?
Yeah, so I think one is, the fact that people are still, it is kind of frustrating sometimes when you know that this person should actually be part of therapy. You hear, I mean, of course, in your social circles, you hear about situations, you hear about people that you genuinely know are struggling, but even you can't even recommend because even if you tell them that go for therapy, they will take it as an insult that, okay, you think something's wrong with me. And so I think that is one struggle. The other part is of course all therapists in this, I think, world over, not just India, that you have to take care of yourself as well, because when you're dealing with these, and these are people who've had pasts, who've had I mean, when they talk to you, sometimes you really, and it happens to me sometimes after the call, it takes me 5 minutes to really, come back to the normal state because you're just shocked at what the person has really gone through in his life. And so it is very important that you take care, and at the end of the day, again, you have a way of psychologically distancing yourself from that issue. You shouldn't get sucked into it completely because neither is it good for you nor for even your client actually. So yeah, that sort of is very important for a therapist.
So, we mentioned about the third person journaling, and there's somebody asking that how can one, if you could give an example of third person journaling. So, I'm assuming that they want to know that, usually in a manifestation journal, you tend to write like Dear Universe or whatever, and you write your journal. But in a journal where they're trying to write about the problem they're facing, how can they address it to a third person?
No, so basically, think of yourself as a movie character. Okay, like you are writing about a movie on you if you were to write. So basically, you're saying that Hamsaz started her day today with so and so. She felt very angry when this happened. So, whatever, I mean, whatever it is that you're journaling about, if you're generally writing about your thoughts, etc., as well, write it as the protagonist. Like there's a
Okay.
character who's thinking of all of that. Instead of saying that I thought blah blah blah, make it like a character is thinking, etc., etc. So it kind of becomes that way. So for example, when you are going through a lot of anger yourself, and I again, this is another way of sort of managing your emotions, and you keep telling yourself that okay, why am I angry, etc. Instead of it, call your anger, you characterize it and call it the Hulk, for example. You can call it anything. You can call it Shakal or whatever you want. And then you sort of say, okay, the Hulk is back. How do I get rid of this Hulk? Okay, again, what you're doing is you're kind of distancing yourself from the anger. It's not you who's angry, but now it is kind of a little externalized, and you're trying to get rid of this Hulk which is there. So you have, and the minute you have that distance, you become a lot more rational and can deal with it better. So similarly, even when you're writing a journal, you can write it as characterize it, make it more interesting, be creative, as though you're writing really a movie script about yourself.
So, while we were talking about journaling and all of it, tell me broadly about what is mental health landscape looking at this point?
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. Unfortunately, I do feel that there's a lot of lack of sort of data that's available in our country when it comes to these things. So of course, it's improving again, and that you find it in bits and parts, but it's still not as much as say in the West. In the US, UK, if I want to know right now how many people are going through X, Y, Z, it's easier to find out. So right now, in fact, I am conducting a survey myself, which is, and I would like to say that that's at the link in my bio. So I would really request people to go through that survey and do it. So what we're trying to do here is really get to understand what is the landscape looking like. What are people really struggling with? What is it that they want from their employers? Is there a difference? Is the stress that a woman is facing very different from a man currently? Is there a difference between age groups? Are the younger ages kind of more distressed than the older aged people. So a lot of it will come out of this survey. But since it's already a little bit in the way I can give you broadly what is happening is that you're finding a lot of people who are going through anxiety. So anxiety is coming out very predominantly as the emotion that everybody is struggling with. Depression is definitely there. A lot of people are struggling with boredom. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, there's just a lot of boredom that then I was quite shocked to see that actually, because I thought that a lot of people are struggling to manage everything. But obviously, while they're doing that, there's still that boredom that is there. And that was kind of a huge number that came across percentage wise. And of course, a lot of people are struggling with the fact that their organizations haven't even communicated to them about what they want to do next. Are they laying off people? Are they giving increments? Are they not giving bonuses? So I think organizations need to be a lot more transparent. That is something that is coming out of this survey as well. So overall, it looks like while people are happy with their physical health in this pandemic still, mental health, most people have said that has deteriorated in the last 3 months.
So everyone out here, I hope you all take some time out after our live session and go on her page. The link is on her bio and take some time and fill into the survey because it will not only benefit us but benefit everyone. So let's help her with the survey. So while you were talking about the landscape today, Pawan Raj says yes, very true. Sharmishta says she will definitely take the survey. A lot of thumbs up coming for the survey. And Dr. Rasna, hi, hello Abin, hello Bhupi. So someone also is asking that if someone has an anxiety and give a character name to their anxiety while journaling, so like that, can they also give character names to other emotions? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That actually is a very good point. You can do that. Give a different character to all. And anxiety, I usually call it the SpongeBob. You can call your sort of when you get a little depressed, etc., or sad. You can call it error 404, which is always popping up on our system sometimes. So you can be creative with a lot of these things, especially Indian movie characters, or I mean, you can be as creative as you want, and then say that, okay, so if the SpongeBob's come back again, how do I deal with it now? So so those kind of things that you can be more objective about dealing with. I think someone talked about health anxiety as well. I read over there.
yeah.
I think that is important, and that is triggered a lot. So a lot of people have health anxiety. One is that it is fine because we are in a very unprecedented situation, and there is a scare for our health, right? So it is natural to be a little more anxious about our health and the health of our family members. So it is okay and not to worry too much if you have that health anxiety. But the one tip that I would definitely give people who have a bit more health anxiety is stop Googling. Stop, because what happens is the minute you have a little bit of a health anxiety, you will start Googling to say, okay, what is the symptom? What is that? And that creates more anxiety. And you get into a loop then of being anxious, because when the minute you start Google, you're going to get the worst of the outcomes only. You'll not get an outcome that no, this is nothing. It'll never be that. So you have to kind of avoid that. No matter how much you want to do that, you have to avoid it. That really makes a big difference. Also, there are a lot of things that we sometimes tend to kind of do when we are extremely anxious, like probably eating too much, or we have to try and avoid those things, because then again we're getting into the loop of
Loop.
using that as coping systems, but then over a period of time they don't work and they just harm your health further. So we have to be a bit mindful of that. But a little bit of anxiety is really okay at this point in time. I would say that don't worry about it.
So there is this thing, a term, happiness intervention, which I only understood once I spoke to you because till then I was like, what is happiness intervention? I'm sure it has nothing to do with the laughing club and all, but there is something new. So if you could just educate our viewers about it.
Yeah, so I know, I mean, the word happiness is used so frivolously sometimes. So the happiness interventions that I do, and like you would have probably understood that since we've talked so many times, that all the work that I do is very research based and science based, and that is how I differentiate myself from the others as well, and that is what I understand the best. So I don't know if something is not proven, if something is not really evidence based, it doesn't work for me. And I feel it's the same for a lot of people. And so that is why the happiness intervention that I do and is based on the research in the fields of positive psychology over the couple of decades in the last few years. So it kind of is, and if you read all those three books that I've talked about, and if you do a lot of your research, you will see some of those experiments, some of those studies that I've done, which have shown a few things which really work for our happiness. Like I talked to you about, say, gratitude. I talked to you about some of the things. So a lot of it is also about how a brain works. And it's very interesting. So in this intervention, we use a lot of illusions to show how
Okay.
our brain works. Because our brain is very faulty, honestly. Okay, while of course it's an amazing thing as well, but it is faulty in many places. So we try to show that. We try to show how that affects our happiness in many ways. And so then, what do you do about it, etc. So it's very science-based, very evidence-based stuff. And then we give about 6 or 7 interventions that help you in improving your happiness. We actually measure, when I do these with corporates, we measure the happiness levels before the intervention and after the
Okay.
intervention, and you actually see an improvement. So that is how scientific it is.
Okay, thank you for enlightening us on happiness intervention because this was a total alien term for me and I really wanted them to know about it too. So now, you are an artist too. You keep painting. How does art therapy help to rewire your brain?
Yeah, so art therapy is quite commonly used sometimes, especially when you're dealing with children. I don't know whether we can call it therapy, but using art to really kind of get to even know them better, get to understand what they're trying to say, really helps. And of course, with older adults, etc., art therapy is a very unique way of helping people kind of come to terms with a lot of things in their life, accept a lot of things, etc. So it really helps. But I feel it's not just for those people who are distressed or have disorders. Even for us, I mean, if art is something that we like, and we don't have to do it if we don't enjoy it, because a lot of people feel like, okay, they need to kind of get into some of those hobbies. But if you enjoy it, then I would definitely recommend that you remove some time of your day, because it helps you a lot as well. Basically, when you go into any flow, which means that when you're doing something where you don't realize how much time has passed, that's called flow in a way. And you should do those. Those are very good for your mental health. So usually painting has that effect, and for me it does. Like when I start painting, I don't realize when a couple of hours have gone, and it just calms me down completely. So yeah, if that works for you, do it, but don't just do it because others are doing it.
Okay, so like you said, when you have your sessions, you have these fun, humor, sarcasm, and all of it combined together. So while we had this educative, mindful talk, we're gonna have a quick question round where we're just gonna have some fun between you and me. And this has to be like a rapid fire. So it's not rapid fire, but quick answers. Whatever comes to your mind first. So
Okay,
what
I'll
is more
try.
important, human body or human mind?
Mind.
Fault in our brain or fault in our stars?
Brain or
Stars. Fault in our brain or fault in our stars?
can I say none? Fault in our thoughts.
Okay. What in life is beautiful for you?
What?
In life is beautiful for you.
Uh, Okay, that's a tough one. I think when I see unconditional love somewhere, whether it's within a family or between people, I think I find that really beautiful. It's rare to find, but when it is there, it's quite beautiful.
Rank this in the importance. Mind, body, soul.
Mind, soul, body.
Where do you find your inspiration from?
Uh, my husband is right now lifting his hand. Okay. Uh, Yeah, I think I would say that as well. I mean, from the people around me, I think they always inspire me. They have so much faith in me, even when I'm doing the most ridiculous things, like quitting at the age of 40 from what you're doing at the peak of your career and going to study. I think they really support me, and that inspires me a lot.
So Vivek Kapoor is complimenting you. Hamsaz is beautiful. Yes, Vivek, I totally agree with you on this.
Thank
So,
you.
as a psychotherapist, you hold a lot of secrets of everyone. But who do you share your secrets with? Is your
Um,
husband again raising his hand?
he did. In fact, he's nodding his head right now. I think, yeah, I mean, I do have a couple of best friends that I talk to. And I am generally not a very expressive or open person. But when it comes to these two, three best friends that I have, I really can be myself and open up with any secret that I have.
What's your personal heaven?
Um, it's a funny thing that is coming to my mind, but I'll say it. Sitting in my house balcony and doing a puzzle.
What's your mantra of life?
um, um, Basically, it's all about acceptance, accepting our own self, accepting myself, accepting people whom I love, accepting my life. That's my mantra.
In one word, what you live for.
Contribution. I mean, where you feel you're contributing to somebody or something, then yeah, that's what adds value to me.
If you had a superpower, what would you do?
Yeah, if I could make a lot of people sort of more resilient and take away their struggles, I would like that.
So, we spoke about how we do therapy to turn from negative to positive, especially the mind. So, I'm going to take names of negative emotions and quickly you have to say the first word that comes to your mind to switch to the positive. Okay? So, bitterness,
I'm thinking sweetness, but that doesn't make sense. Uh, Bitterness. I don't know. I mean,
okay, let's
acceptance.
take sweetness and acceptance.
Yeah.
Resentment,
Um, healthy, healthy jealousy.
discomfort,
Tolerance.
anger,
Healthy anger.
disappointment,
Um, Disappointment is not bad actually. I don't know. I can't think of it because I feel disappointment is not a bad in bad emotion. It's fine to be disappointed sometimes.
okay, shame,
Yeah, shame. I would say to disappointment instead of feeling shame, you should just be disappointed.
sadness.
Um, Again, sadness is not bad. If you're depressed, you should be sad. But if you're just sad about something, that's just human, right? We can't just be all happy all the time in a given situation.
If you had to sum up the human mind in 5 words,
Um, it would be, I mean, in five different words, right? One would be like habit. It's all about habit. It's all about your thoughts. So we have to work on the thoughts part. It is I think these two I can think of. Basically, it's all about kind of thinking about what you're thinking and trying to constantly evolve yourself through making your thoughts better.
so yeah, you have won the hamper and hopefully
Okay,
we will send you a nice journal soon for journaling.
yeah,
So
that'll be good. Thank you.
thank you, Hamsas, for coming live with us and having a positive live session with us and answering all our questions. Though we're gonna contact you again for another live session, maybe after your survey is done. And I request everyone here to again take out some time and fill in the survey, which is on her bio link on her personal page. Please go post this live and take some time and take the survey. Something you want to tell your viewers before we sign out?
No, I firstly want to thank you for this fun session. I really enjoyed the chat. I liked all your questions. They were quite interesting and I think very important questions which people should be kind of aware of. I had a great time. I just want to
Thank you.
tell all the viewers again, leaving them with the fact that you're not alone right now. If you're struggling, most of us are, and so it's very okay if you are. But when it becomes more, please don't stop yourself from going to a therapist or seeking help or talking about it with your friend, etc. If that helps, don't suppress your emotions because that's just the way to kill your mental health. So yeah, so that's it. Take care.
Thank you and see you live again sometime soon.
Thank you, Shweta.